part 3 of the utility room, and today I'm going to paint it. But the first thing you've got to do is double check your papering. Make sure there's no joints lifting, because you know, as best you are, there's always the odd one. So if you do come across one, right, I've got one up here, it's just there. Taking your fine scraper, just lift the edge a bit, like that. And then taking your overlap adhesive, just rub a bit in. I mean, that'll dry in no time, that, so it won't hold up the painting. And then just rub out the excess. And then with the damp cloth, just wipe that back, and then you're ready to emulsion. And again, like I said, what I'm using is this Valspar Pure Brilliant White, and it's a matte finish and it's a scrubbable paint. With it being a utility room, you'll need to wipe stuff off the walls if he ever splashes it. So some of the things I've got, I only need a small roller in here because it's such a small area. I've got my paint scuttle, a small brush for doing any small bits around the radiator and around the pipes, and I've got my 2-inch brush to do all the cutting in with. I'm not using a paint kettle in here. I'm going to dip out of my paint scuttle because it's so small, literally, you know, straight on your steps, and you can do a load of cutting in. So first of all, what I'm going to do is cut in around the ceiling and roll the ceiling, but I'm also going to cut in a bit of the wall at the same time because it's all going white and it doesn't really matter. So what I'll do is I'll just show you a couple of processes as I'm going, like round the tops of the tiles. I will cut in round there and round the window, because basically, you know, painting's the easy part. It's always the preparation that is the difficult part. One of your important things is a cloth, damp cloth, bucket of water. Alright, okay, cutting in round the window using your 2-inch brush. Take a dip, and you know, it doesn't matter if you go onto the plastic, because sometimes it's better if you do, and then you can wipe off with your cloth to make the edge straighter. Same on the tiles there. There's a little bit of grout line. So really what you want to do is allow your paint to go onto that grout line. Like that. Right. Now there's a bit of paint on the plastic, there's a bit of paint on the window, but what you do, just get a bit of an edge on the paper there. Using your damp cloth when you've done the cutting in and the rolling, without touching the wall, like that, you get a perfectly neat edge. No masking tape, no frog tape. There you go, that's how you cut in. That's the first coat on now. You can't really tell a difference. So what I'm going to do is allow this to dry now. Should only take a couple of hours, because I'm actually going to put my dehumidifier on and have a heater in here as well, so it dries out a lot quicker. Just show you at the top there, that's where the hole was in the ceiling. Alright, and what I've done, put my brushes in a plastic bag and they'll be okay like that for a couple of hours, and I've covered over my paint and my scuttle. You can get lids for these, but they always end up breaking, so a bit of plastic on the top does the job. Right then, so what you'll probably see next is maybe doing the radiator, and I'll talk about the door casing, possibly the pipes, but I won't show you any more of the emulsion now because you've got the idea there. What else I've done as well is I've painted the pipes, the conduits, and I've painted that one as well, and at the top I've painted that pipe and that wire. You know, it just neatens it all up, makes it look nice and fresh. All the emulsion has been done, that's finished. So what I'm about to do is wash down the radiator and the door casing, and give the skirtings a wipe round, because you know, you've been doing the papering, you might have paste that you've missed, so it's always worth washing it down because of that. But not only that, you know, you get all the grease off them and things like that, so wash that down. Also what I've done is I've done these copper pipes. I've used a different primer this time. I've used the bin primer. It's shellac based, and it says it can go on any surface without preparation really, although I've wiped it down. I've not sanded it this time on this copper pipe, I've just wiped it down, and I'll just show you how tough this stuff is. I mean, look at that. Now that's been left overnight, and I'm going to give it another coat, and any burr bits of woodwork that I've got as well, I'm going to prime using the bin primer. And on the radiator as well, when I've sanded it down, any burr bits of metal, I'm going to use the bin primer. Then the radiator is going to get 2 coats of radiator paint. Door casing, skirtings and the pipes are going to get 2 coats of the water-based Ronseal gloss for woodwork, the 2-in-1 primer and gloss. Right, I'll show you some of that as I'm doing it. Closer look at this radiator. See some of the preparation you've got to deal with. See the run there coming down. You've got some runs there. A load of runs at the bottom. Call that curtaining. Even at the top, it's not great. It's basically, it's been slapped on and never laid off proper. Runs all over it. So what you got to do is sand all them runs out and give it general sand over. And because it's quite yellow, and I'm going to put a water-based radiator paint on there, which is a stay white enamel finish. I'm going to put a coat of bin primer all over it first to kill the yellow stain. Primer on the radiator. Well, I'm actually going to give the whole radiator a coat of bin primer. Like I was saying before, it's good, and it just eats into the old gloss, and it gives a really good key for the radiator paint. So what I've got here is some gloves, really important, some methylated spirits and a cloth for cleaning up, as well as, you know, you have to keep adding thinners to this because it evaporates quite quickly. My brushes are kept in this old big wipes pot. Just put a little bit of meths in there, put the lid on with your brushes in, and they last for ages. And to be honest, even if they go hard in there and the meths dries out, put some more meths in and within a few hours you can use them. It's really good. I'll show you that. Gloves on. Opening your pots when your brushes are in. You see in there, it's just a little bit. And I've also got inside there a roller head. I keep that in there in case I'm doing any large areas. I just leave that in there so I'm not wasting them all the time, and it lasts them pretty well actually. Anyway, shouldn't have done that, but there you go. Right, open your tin, give it a stir up. You have to make sure you stir this pretty well, and like I say, it does evaporate really quickly, so don't be worried about putting some extra thinners in there. You can thin it out quite a lot, this stuff, because I only use it as like an etching primer almost. In some cases it doesn't have to be a thick coat that goes on. If you're covering over rust, or you're covering over knots in wood, then you have to have it a bit thicker and put 2 coats on to ensure you don't get anything bleeding through. But if you're just pouring over old gloss or anything like that, then you can have it a bit thinner, and it just works better. If it's too thick, you can leave ropey lines with this stuff very easily. That's enough. I'm going to use this fitch as well for any difficult bits on the radiator. And what I usually do, it's because it does evaporate so quickly, I like to leave it in one of those and just pop it inside your can. Usually I have 2 of them pots, so if I buy a new one, I'll just use my old one to work out of. Starting with the 2 top valves, I'm going to do those on each side, and then bringing the back down the sides, the valves at the bottom on each side, and that frees up all your front then. This stuff, it really isn't easy to apply, so without trying to go on this top edge, you need to just come down and just try and get no runs and work as quick as you can to the bottom edge, and as you're coming across, finish the top edge across slightly. It's just not easy, but here we go. and then go on to the side bits and the valves at the bottom. And that little side piece there on the back edge. Right, moving on to the flap now. You have to work really quickly with this stuff. One thing you make sure is you're laying off is all in one direction. And if you do get any bits where you want to put a second coat on it, once this is dry, just touch it up, don't bother putting a hot second coat on the lot. Again, just make sure you keep all your lines going the same way. It can look really ropey, this stuff. But because I'm putting a water-based finish on this, I'll cover any of the bare metal and any of the rust at the same time. So. And if it does work up a little bit in an area, you know, it does sand back a bit, but you've got to, once it's on, you've got to try and keep away from it. I just did a bit there then. It's already going off and it's dragged it a bit. The most important part of this is just don't get any runs in it. The runs are the worst part about a radiator. You know, even if you get a bit of brush mark in there, as long as the brush mark is going the correct way, then it doesn't look too bad. But as soon as you start brushing it and scrubbing it, it all shows up. Right, that's not too bad, that. I'll touch that up when it's dry. What I'm also going to do now is go around the skirting board, any bare bits of wood, and on the pipes there you can see some bits missing on the pipes. I've just cleaned off some bare bits there. So I'm just going to give it all a coat of bin primer and second coat this copper as well, where I put the first coat on. You know, there's a little bit of bare wood there as well. Apart from the casing, well, the rest of it I'm going to bin prime, and the casing I'm just going to touch up the bare bit there, and then that gets 2 coats of the water-based gloss. What I've done to make life easier for myself is I've put some newspaper down and I've tucked it under the pipe in places, as you can see. So then I don't get this bin primer all over the floor, because it's dust sheets, they're difficult sometimes when you're working around pipes like that. Right, you can have a look when it's all done. Some things I have to speed up my job is a heater. I do have a fan heater as well, which is good sometimes, and I also have my dehumidifier. These are so important, especially in winter. Most jobs you can't put your radiator on because you either want to paint it or you're papering near it, so you know, having these, it's essential. So on this job I've been doing a few other things, because there's been a new bathroom fitted and there was a casing to paint in the bathroom, and there was also a new cot loft fitted, so I've been painting them. I'll just show you. This is the new bathroom. It's really nice. They've done a cracking job of this. What was left in here was the door casing, which I've used the water-based gloss on that. It just needs a second coat. What I've done here, I've used my bin primer to seal any knots, and then I've used polyfiller to fill any gaps, sanded it down, then I've touched up the knots with bin primer, and it's had, well, it's going to have 2 coats of the gloss. And the loft cover hatch, or the cot loft, is there. I've got another coat to put on that, yeah. Show you that back out. Again, the water-based gloss is brilliant stuff, it really is. This is what I'm putting on the radiator. Good stuff it is. Again, I've got 2 cans, and usually what I do is in old pots I'll work out of that. Again, it dries that quickly, it's just easier to do. So that goes in there. Give it a stir up. Again, I'm using pure bristle on this, no synthetic. That's a 1.5 inch, and that's a little 1/2 inch. Okay, brushing a little bit. Your fitch or 1/2 inch, doesn't matter. Right, and I'll show you how to do the radiator. It's already been sanded down. Same principle, starting with your valves at the top. And then do the other valve. The only downside to using pure bristles sometimes is you'll get hairs coming out of them, but if you get a decent brush and it wears in, usually that stops, and then you're not too bad. Back edge. I mean, you can only do your best with that. Nobody can see it anyway, so. Right, and then you can start with the sides. Again, this is getting a second coat, so I'm not even going to look, to be honest, if it's grinning or anything like that. You just want to get the paint on and lay it off even. That's your main priority, getting it nice and neat, because the second coat will make it look solid. Side. Couple of splashes there, get them off because it dries that quick, this stuff. You might not be able to work them back up that easy. Too bad. Right, starting with the flat again. Sometimes if you find things in the paint or there's a little lump, you can rub them out before your paint dries, which then saves having to sand it. nice to be using a pure bristle. I really don't like them synthetic brushes. I've not found one yet that seems to be able to lay off very fine. I mean, these brushes, they wear down so nice that when you come to laying off and you're pulling back every time, being lighter and lighter, it's just great. It fades everything out. The thing with my decorating is most of the time everything's just to a standard, because you can only do your best with whatever materials are in front of you. You know, if the timber, you know, the wood that's been put on is rough, then your work's not going to be that great because it can show the grain up. As long as whatever you do is better than when you turned up, then you're on a winner. I'm just trying to make sure if there's any lines, they're all nice and straight, because when it dries it looks so much better. It's not easy stuff to use, water based at all. It doesn't want to sit back as well. And this Radiator stuff's about the best, really. It's not too bad. Again, try and avoid going over what you've just done. You need to be careful with that. That's not too bad. Again, it needs a second coat, and the second coat usually goes on a lot better because it's against its other coats, and there's no sanding required on the second coat. You can do if you want, if you've got any little bits here and there, you can give it quite a little sand, but with this being water based, it's like the water based gloss. You don't really have to sand in between the coats because it's like emulsion, it just sticks. It's not like gloss. Right, that's not too bad. Didn't like that edge there then. This is the gloss I'm using. Ron Seal. It's good stuff. Take your screwdriver, open you can. Always make sure you stir your paint up. This time I'm going to use natural bristle. I'm falling out with this synthetic brush. They're okay, but once the bristles get bent on them, they seem to never want to go back. And I know using pure bristle, after a while they turn into a really nice brush. They might wear down eventually and then you can't use them. You know, you have to get a new brush, but they turn into a nice brush for a bit. Right, again with this stuff, it dries that quick. I usually just pop it in my pot like that and work out of a can, so it makes life easier. So I'll show you putting some of that on this door casing. It's starting with the top edge. It's always nice to gloss these because if you're ever doing any cleaning, it's easy to wipe dust off a nice neat edge that's got gloss on it rather than it's got a matte finish on it, or you know. So then once you've done that edge, you can start with the front. I can only do my best with this because it is actually been painted before and it's quite ropey. So when you're laying it off, you're only going to be able to do your best. If you do touch the wall, you can always touch it up when you're finished. Do that. And you can do the underneath. I mean, with this stuff, you've just got to be careful with it. It is strange stuff to get too used to using it, but the benefits are really good. And this gloss as well, it doesn't seem to flash as much as some brands do. It's quite good, like the fact that you can go back over a bit within a minute and it doesn't really flash. Right, so I'll just show you up this side and then a little bit more, and then that's it, you get the principle. Cutting these edges in, it's never easy. Just take your time. Because you're putting two coats on anyway, don't worry about it grinning a little bit, because the second coat will cover that. The thing I find with this water-based gloss is it doesn't seem to want to grip the surface. It skids along a little bit and it's almost like putting silk on. You just have to ignore how it's going on. Lay it off, get it nice and neat and leave it. And usually it dries quite well. The worst thing you can do is try and play around with it too much, especially when it starts to dry. You want to just leave it alone. Yeah, it's like learning how to paint again, because you use oil for years and you so get in tune with how it works and what you can do with it, and the next minute you're having to change and it's not good. Right, basically that's it. That's how you apply water-based gloss, and it is good. Just give you a quick look. I mean, you can just about see where it's gone on there, but the sheen on it's not too bad when it goes off, you know, when it dries and that, which I'll show you after. Like I say, you can only do your best, because this has been done before previously quite a few times, and I've not even done this bit, but you can see how ropey it is. I mean, It's unreal. So you can only do your best. Right. Basically now I'll show you when it's finished. Another good tip is to take your bulb out, give it a wash and give it a polish, because that really does make a difference on the job right at the end. I've cleaned the rose off best I can. Give it a wipe down. That's ready to go back. Make sure you get the threads on right, because you don't want to twist them, because they look horrible twisted and then you can't get them off sometimes if you cross thread it. Right, just give the bulb a clean. All finished. So quick look round things for you. And the lumps there in the wall. Radiator. Quick close look at that. And pipes at the bottom. Right then, so on to the next job.